Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to the Claverings by Anthony Trollope, where recently in the story we have had a tragedy. Little Hugh, the heir of Sir Hugh Clavering, has died. The little boy has died. And this allows Trollope to show us how a lot of his characters behave when emotions are heightened and tragedy is present. We see what a monster Hugh Clavering is. We see that neither Harry Clavering nor Julia Brabazon can withstand the tides of high emotions. They both give in to an incredible discretion. But in addition to that, the young boy's death changes the mechanics of the personal arrangements in the plot. Because Sir Hugh's good-for-nothing brother, Archie, Captain Clavering, is now the heir to the property. He's the heir to the big house and the farms and all of that if he should outlive his brother, Sir Hugh. Sir Hugh is obviously not going to have another heir with Lady Clavering. And he's obviously not going to divorce her and get a wife that will give him an heir. So Archie's prospects in the world have now improved immensely. And this has a bearing on one element of the plot because it has been schemed at the big house by Sir Hugh and also by Lady Clavering, and they have put that scheme upon Archie that he should pitch woo to Julia Brabazon herself. That she is widowed now. She is extremely wealthy. Archie should be her husband. That would be just the thing to set him up in the world, as Mrs. Clavering puts it. It's an insane scheme. It's, of course, concocted without any reference to Julia at all. But we do know what she thinks of it. We don't know what she thinks of the scheme itself, but we know what she thinks of Archie Clavering, which is that he's utterly useless. She tells Harry that it's unlikely that Archie would settle for the kind of woman who would settle for him. And Archie is undaunted in this and has an idea. He has an idea. The one time that he went to visit Julia, Sophie Gordeloup entered the room. And this disconcerted Archie, and when Archie later on told this to Captain Doodles, his confidant in the art of lovemaking, the one who told him to let her know that you're there, Doodles immediately suggested just buy her. Just suborn this strange woman. If she's constantly in Julia's company, then she can be an ally to you, and you're in a position to suborn her where other men might not be. So pay her. And that is the grounding for our next chapter, chapter 24, which is called The Russian Spy. Because Trollope's narrator has already intimated that perhaps people in London know something about Sophie Gordeloup, but they don't quite know that she's a paid Russian spy. When the baby died at Claverling Park, somebody hinted that Sir Hugh would certainly quarrel with his brother as soon as Archie should become the father of a presumptive heir to the title and the property. That such would be the case, those who best knew Sir Hugh would not doubt. That Archie should have had that which he himself had been robbed would of itself be enough to make him hate Archie. I think he probably hates Archie anyway. But nevertheless, at this present time, he continued to instigate his brother in that matter of the proposed marriage with Lady Ongar. Hugh, as well as others, felt that Archie's prospects were now improved, and that he could demand the hand of a wealthy lady with more of seeming propriety than would have belonged to such a proposition while the poor child was living. No one would understand this better than Lady Ongar, who knew so well all the circumstances of the family. She's not going to understand that a man can demand anything from her. The day after the funeral, the two brothers returned to London together, and Sir Hugh spoke his mind in the railway carriage. "It will be no good for you to hang about on Bolton Street on and off as though she were a girl of 17, he said. "I'm quite up to that," said Archie. "I must let her know that I am there, of course. I understand all that." "Then why don't you do it? I thought you meant to go to her at once when you were talking about it before in London." "So I did go to her, and got on with her very well, too, considering that I hadn't been there very long when another woman came in." "But you don't tell her what you had come about. You didn't tell her what you'd come about." "No, not exactly. You see, it doesn't do to pop at a widow like her. Ongar, you know, hasn't been dead 6 months. One has to be a little delicate in these things." "Believe me, Archie, you had better give up all the notions of being delicate, and tell her what you want at once, plainly and fairly. You may be sure that she will not think of your former husband if you don't. Yes, but she's going to say no. No matter how you beat around the bush, she's going to say no. Sir Hugh doesn't cross his mind that she will say no. Oh, I don't think about him at all. Who was the woman you say was there? That little French woman, the sister of the man. Sophie calls her... Sophie, she calls her. Sophie Gordeloup is her name. They are bosom friends. What, the sister of that count? Yes, his sister. Such a woman for talking. She said ever so much about your keeping Hermione down in the country. The devil she did. What business is that of hers? That is Julia's doing. Well, no, I don't think so. Julia didn't say a word about it. In fact, I don't know how it came up. But you never heard such a woman to talk. An ugly, old, hideous little creature. But the two are always together. If you don't take care, you'll find that Julia is married to the Count while you are thinking about it. Then Archie began to consider what he might not as well tell his brother of his present scheme with reference to Julia. Having discussed the matter at great length with his confidential friend Captain Boodle, he had come to the conclusion that his safest course would be to bribe Madame Gordeloup to creep into Julia's favor by that lady's aid. Now, on his return to London, he was about at once to play that game, and had already provided himself with funds for the purpose. The parting with ready money was a grievous thing to Archie, though in this case the misery would be somewhat palliated by the feeling that it was a bona fide sporting transaction. Oh, God. These brothers are so worthless. He would be lessening the odds against himself by a judicious hedging of his bets. You must stand to lose something always by the horse you mean to win, Doodles had said to him, and Archie had recognized the propriety of the remark. He had, therefore, with some difficulty, provided himself with funds, and was prepared to set about his hedging operations as soon as he could find Madame Gordeloup on his return to London. He had already ascertained her address through Doodles, and had ascertained by the unparalleled acuteness of his friend that the lady was a Russian spy. It would have been beautiful to have seen Archie's face when this information was whispered into his ear in private at the club. Well, yes, but you, the narrator, could show us that, if you want. It was as though he had been made acquainted with some great turf secret unknown to the sporting world in general. Ah, he said, drawing a long breath. No, by George, is she? That the same story had been told everywhere in London of the little woman for the last half-dozen years, whether truly or untruly, I am not prepared to say, but it had hitherto reached Archie Clavering. It had not hitherto reached Archie Clavering, and now, on hearing it, he felt that he was becoming a participator in the deepest diplomatic secret of Europe. By George, said he, is she really? And his respect for the little woman rose 1,000%. That's what she is, said Doodles, and it's a deuced fine thing for you, you know. Of course you can make her safe, and that will be everything. Archie resolved at once that he would use with the great advantage which this chance and the ingenuity of his friend had thrown in his way. But that necessity of putting money in his purse was a sore grievance to him, and it occurred to him that it would be a grand thing if he could induce his brother to help him in this special matter. If he could only make Hugh see the immense advantages of an alliance with the Russian spy, Hugh would hardly avoid contributing to the expense. Of course, on the understanding that all such monies were to be repaid when the Russian spy's work was brought to a successful result. Russian spy! There was in the very sound of the word something so charming that it almost made Archie in love with the outlay. A female Russian spy, too. Sophie Gordeloup certainly retained but few of the charms of womanhood, nor had her presence as a lady affected Archie with a special pleasure. But yet he was infinitely more pleased with the affair than he would have been had she been a man spy. The intrigue was deeper. His sense of delight in the mysterious wickedness of the thing was enhanced by an additional spice. It was not given to every man to employ the services of a political Russian lady spy in his love affairs. As he thought of it all in all its bearings, he felt that he was almost a Talleyrand, or at any rate a Palmerston. Should he tell his brother? If he could represent the matter in such a light to his brother as to induce Hugh to produce the funds for purchasing the spy's services, the whole thing would be complete with a completeness that was rarely to be equaled. But he doubted. Hugh was a hard man, hard, unimaginative, and might possibly altogether refuse to believe in the Russian spy. Hugh believed in little but what he saw himself, and usually kept a very firm grasp upon his money. That Madame Gordeloup is always with Julia, Archie said, trying the way, as it were, before he told his plan. Of course she will help her in Of course, she will help her brother's views. I'm not sure of that. Some of these foreign women ain't like other women at all. They go deeper, a deuced sight deeper. Into men's pockets, you mean? They play a deep game altogether. What do you suppose she is? What do you suppose she is now? This question Archie asked in a whisper, bending his head forward towards his brother, though there was no one else in the carriage with them. What is she? A thief of some kind, probably. I've no doubt she's up to any roguery. She's a Russian spy. Oh, I've heard that for the last dozen years. All the ugly old French women in London are Russian spies, according to what people say. But the Russians know how to use their money better than that. If they employ spies, they employ people who can spy something. Like perhaps a podcaster in a beanie. Archie felt this to be cruel, very cruel, but he said nothing further about it. His brother was stupid, pig-headed, obstinate, and quite unfitted by nature for the affairs of intrigue. It was, alas, certain that his brother would provide no money for such a purpose as that he now projected, but thinking of this, he found some consolation in the reflection that Hugh would not be a participator with him in his great secret. When he should have bought the Russian spy, he and Doodles would rejoice together in privacy without any third confederate. Triumvir might be very well. Archie had heard of triumvirate, but 2 were company and 3 were none. Thus he consoled himself when his pig-headed brother expressed his disbelief in the Russian spy. There was nothing more said between them in the railway carriage, and as they parted at the door of Berkeley Square, Hugh swore to himself that this should be the last season in which he should harbour his brother in London. After this, he must have a house of his own there, or have no house at all. Then Archie went down to his club and finally arranged with Doodles that the first visit to the spy, in capital letters, would be made on the following morning. After much consultation, it was agreed between them that the way would be paved by a diplomatic note. The diplomatic note was therefore written by Doodles and copied by Archie. I think it's... Sir Hugh is threatening Archie. He hasn't said it at this particular chapter to Archie, but he's threatening Archie that I'm not going to keep giving you room and board in London for free at my house. You have to have a house of your own. And the threat is that Archie can't have a house of his own, that he's not capable of doing it. But we've already met a couple of people who don't appear to have fixed addresses. They get along just fine. Captain Clavering presents his compliments to Madame... This is the note. Captain Clavering presents his compliments to Madame Gordeloup and proposes to call upon her tomorrow morning at 12 o'clock, if that hour will be convenient. Captain Clavering is desiring of consulting Madame Gordeloup on an affair of much importance. Consult me, said Sophie to herself when she got the letter. For what would he consult me? It is that stupid man I saw with Julie. Ah, well, never mind. The stupid man shall come. The commissioner, therefore, who had taken the letter to Mount Street, returned to the club with a note in which Madame Gordeloup expressed her willingness to undergo the proposed interview. Archie felt that the letter, a letter from a Russian spy addressed positively to himself, gave him an already diplomatic rank, and he kept it as a treasure in his breastcoat pocket. It was then necessary that he and his friend should discuss the manner in which the spy should be managed. Doodles had his misgivings that Archie would be awkward, and almost angered his friend by the repetition of his caution. You mustn't chuck your money at her head, you know, said Doodles. It's going to turn out that's exactly what will work. Of course not. But when the time comes, I shall slip the notes into her hand, with a little pressure, perhaps. It would be better to leave them near her on the table. Do you think so? Oh, yes, a great deal better. It's always done in that way. But perhaps she wouldn't see them, or wouldn't know where they came from. Let her alone for that. But I must make her understand that I want what I want of her. In return, you know, I ain't going to give her £20 for nothing. So you think. You're going to give her a lot more than that, bucko. She must explain that at first. You must explain that at first. Tell her that you expect her aid and that she will find you a grateful friend. A grateful friend, I say. Mind you remember that. Yes, I'll remember that. I suppose it was as good as any way. It's the only way, unless you want her to ring for the servant and kick you out of the house. It's as well understood as ABC among the people who do these things. Captain Doodles does not know anything about what he's talking about. I should say that take jewelry instead of money if she were anything but a Russian spy, but they understand the thing so well you might go farther with them than with the other. Archie's admiration of Sophie became higher as he heard this. I do like people, he said, who understand what's what, and no mistake. But even with her, you must be very careful. Oh, yes, that's a matter of course. When I was declaring for the first time that she would find me grateful friend, just at the word grateful, I would put down the 4 fivers on the table, smoothing them with my hand like that. Then Doodles acted the part, putting a great deal of emphasis on the word grateful as he went through the smoothing ceremony with 2 or 3 sheets of club notepaper. That's your game, you may be sure, and if you put them into her hand, she may feel herself obliged to pretend to be angry. But she can't be angry simply because you put money on her table. Do you see that, old fellow? Archie declared that he did see it very plainly. If she does not choose to undertake the job, she'll merely have to tell you that you have left something behind. But there's no fear on that, I suppose? I can't say. Her hands may be full, you know, or she may think you don't go high enough. But I mean to tip her again, of course. Again, I should think so. I suppose she must have about a couple of hundred before the end of next month if she's to do any good. After a bit, you'll be able to explain that she shall have a sum down when the marriage has come off. She won't take the money and do nothing, will she? From what you know of Sophie Gordeloup so far, what do you think? Oh, no. Oh, they never sell you like that. It would spoil their own business if they were to play that game. You can make it worth her while. She'll do the work for you. But you must be careful. Do remember that. Archie shook his head, almost in anger, and then went home for his night's rest. On the next morning, he dressed himself in his best and presented himself at the door of Mount Street exactly as the clock struck 12. He had an idea that these people were very punctilious as to time. Who could say but that the French ambassador might have an appointment with Madame Gordeloup at 1:30, or perhaps some emissary from the Pope? He had resolved that he would not take off his left glove from his hand, and he had thrust the notes in under the palm of that glove, thinking he could get at them easier from there. Oh, God. Oh, God. What are you doing? Okay, off you go. Oh goodness, we have to make a nest for ourselves. Oh, okay, let's go back to where we were. He had resolved that he would not take off his left glove off his hand, and he had thrust the notes in under the palm of his glove, thinking he could at them easier from there, should he be wanted in a moment, than he could from his waistcoat pocket. He knocked at the door, knowing that he had trembled as he did so, and felt considerable relief when he found himself to be alone in the room to which he was shown. He knew that men conversant with intrigues always go to work with their eyes open, and therefore at once he began to look about him. Could he not put the money into some convenient hiding place, now at once? There, in the corner, was the spot in which she would seat herself upon the sofa. He saw plainly enough, as with the eyes of a Talleyrand, the marks thereon of her constant sitting. So he seized the moment to place a chair suitable for himself and cleared a few inches on the table near to it. The smoothing of the banknotes, feeling while so employed that he was doing great things. He had almost made up his mind to slip one note between the pages of a book, not with any well-defined plan as to the utility of such a measure, but because it seemed to be such a diplomatic thing to do. But while this grand idea was still flashing backwards and forwards across his brain, the door opened, and he found himself in the presence of the Russian spy. He at once saw that the Russian spy was very dirty, and that she wore a nightcap, and he liked her better on that account. A female Russian spy should, he felt, differ much in her attire from other women. If possible, she should be arrayed in diamonds and pearl eardrops, with as little else upon her as might be. But failing that costume, which might be regarded as appropriate evening spy costume, a tumbled nightcap, a dirty white wrapper, old cloth slippers, and objectionable stockings were just what they should be. Ah, said the lady, you are Captain Clavering. Yes, I remember. I am Captain Clavering. I had the honor of meeting you at Lady Ongar's. And now you wish to consult me on an affair of great importance. Very well, you may consult me. Will you sit down there? And Madame Gordeloup indicated to him a chair just opposite to herself, far removed from that convenient spot which Archie had prepared for the smoothing of the banknotes. Near to the place now assigned to him there was no table whatever, and he felt that he would in that position be so completely raked by the fire of her keen eyes that he would not be able to carry on his battle in good terms. In spite, therefore, of the lady's plain instructions, he made an attempt to take possession of the chair which he had placed himself. But it was an ineffectual attempt, for the spy was very peremptory with him. There, Captain Clavering, there, you will be best there. Then he did as he was bid, and seated himself, as it were, quite out at sea, with nothing but an ocean of carpet around him, and with no possibility of manipulating his notes except the raking fire of those terribly sharp eyes. And now, said Madame Gordeloup, you can commence to consult me. What is the business? Ah, what is the business? That was now the difficulty. In discussing the proper way of tendering the banknotes, I fear the two captains had forgotten the nicest point of the whole negotiation. How was he to tell her what it was he wanted to do himself, and what she was required to do for him? It behooved him above all things not to be awkward. Then he remembered, but how not to be awkward? Well, said she, and there was something almost crossness in her tone. Her time, no doubt, was valuable. The French ambassador might even now be coming. Well, I think, Madame Gordeloup, you know my brother's sister-in-law, Lady Ongar? What, Julie? Of course I know Julie. Julie and I are dear friends. So I supposed. That is the reason why I've come to you. Well? Lady Ongar is a person whom I have known for a long time, and for whom I have I may say, a very deep regard. Ah, yes, what a jointure she has, and what a park! Thousands and thousands of pounds, and so beautiful. If I was a man, I should have a very deep regard, too. Yes. A most beautiful creature, is she not? Ah, if you had seen her in Florence, as I used to see her in the long summer evenings, her lovely hair was all loose to the wind, and she would sit hour after hour looking, at the stars. Have you seen the stars in Italy? Captain Clavering couldn't say that he had, but he had seen them uncommon bright in Norway when he had been fishing there. Or the moon, continued Sophie, not regarding his answer. Ah, that is to live. And he, her husband, the rich lord, he was dying, in a little room, just inside, you know. It was very melancholy, Captain Clavering. But when she was looking at the moon with her hair all disheveled, and Sophie put her hands up to her own dirty nightcap, she was just like the Magdalene. Yes, just the same, just the same. The exact strength of the picture and the nature of the comparison drawn was perhaps lost upon Archie, but it won't be lost upon the reader, who will remember what Mary Magdalene's profession was before she became a follower of Jesus. And indeed, Sophie herself probably trusted more to the tone of her words than to any idea which they contained, but their tone was perfect, and she felt that if anything could make him talk, he would talk now. Dear me, you don't say so. I've always admired her very much, Madame Gordeloup. Well, the French ambassador would probably in the next street already, and if Archie was to tell his tale at all, he must do it now. You will keep my secret if I tell you, he said. Is it me you ask that? Did you ever hear of me that I tell a gentleman's secret? I think not. If you have a secret and will trust me, that will be good. If you will not trust me, that will be good also. Of course I will trust you. That is why I have come here. Then out with it. I'm not a little girl. You need not be bashful. 2 and 2 make 4. I know that. But some people want them to make 5. I know that too. So speak out what you have to say. I am going to ask Lady Ongar to marry me. Ah, indeed, with all the thousands of pounds and the beautiful park, and but the beautiful hair is more than all the thousands of pounds, is it not so? Well, as to that, they all go together, you know. Ah, and that is lucky. And they was to be separated, which would you take? The little woman grinned as she asked this question, and Archie, had he at all understood her character, might at once have put himself on pleasant footing with her, but he was still confused and ill at ease, and only muttered something about the truth of his love for Julia. And you want to get her to marry you? Yes, that's just it. And you want me to help you? That's just it again. Well, upon my word, if you'll stick to me, you know, and see me through it all this kind of thing, you'll find me a very grateful friend, indeed a most grateful friend. And Archie, as soon as his position was debarred from attempting the smoothing process, began to work with his right forefinger under the glove of his left hand. What have you got there? Said Madame Gordeloup, looking at him with all her eyes. Captain Clavering instantly discontinued the work of his finger and became terribly confused. Her voice on asking the question had become very sharp, and it seemed to him that if he brought out his money in that awkward, barefaced way which now seemed to be necessary, she would display all the wrath of which a Russian spy could be capable. Would it not be better that he should let the money rest for the present and trust to his promise of gratitude? Ah, how he wished that he had slipped at any rate one note between the pages of a book. What have you got there? She demanded again, very sharply. Oh, nothing. It is not nothing. What have you got there? If you have got nothing, take off your glove. Come. Captain Clavering became very red in the face, and was altogether at a loss for what to do. Is it money you've got there? She asked. Let me see how much. "It's just a few banknotes that I put here to be handy," he said. "Ah, that is very handy, certainly. I never saw that custom before. Let me look." Then she took his hand and with her own hooked finger clawed out the notes. "Ah, 5, 10, 15, 20 pounds. 20 pounds is not a great deal, but it is very nice to have even that always handy. I was wanting so much money as to myself. Perhaps you will make it handy to me." "Upon my word, I shall be most happy. Nothing on earth would give me more pleasure." 50 pounds would give me more pleasure, just twice as much pleasure. Archie had begun to rejoice greatly at the safe disposition of the money, and to think how excellently well this spy did her business. But now there came upon him suddenly an idea that spies perhaps might do their business too well. "£20 in this country goes a very little way. You are all so rich," said the spy. "Well, by George, I ain't rich indeed." "But you mean to be, with Julie's money?" "Oh, yes, and you ought to know, Madame Gordeloup, that I am now the heir to the family estate and title." "Yes, the poor little baby is dead, in spite of the pills and the powders and the daisies and the buttercups. Poor little baby. I had a baby of my own once, and that died also." Whereupon Madame Gordeloup, putting up her hand to her eyes, wiped away a real tear with the banknotes that she still held. "And am I to remind Julie you will be the heir?" "She will know all about that already." "But I will tell her. It will be something to say, at any rate, that perhaps will be a difficulty." "Just so. I didn't look at it in that light before." "Am I to propose it to her first?" "Well, I don't know. Perhaps as you are so clever, you might as well." "And at once?" "Yes, certainly, at once. You see, Madame Gordeloup, there may be so many buzzing about her." "Exactly. And some of them perhaps will have more than 20 pounds handy. Some will buzz better than that." "Well, of course I didn't mean that anything to be more than just a little compliment to begin with." Ah, just a little compliment for beginning. And when will it be making a progress and a going on?" "Making a progress?" "Yes, when will the compliment become a little bigger? 20 pounds. Oh, it's just for a few gloves, you know, nothing more." "Nothing more than that, of course," said poor Archie. "Well, when will the compliment grow bigger? Let me see. Julia has 7,000 pounds of what you call per annum. And have you seen that beautiful park? Oh, if you can make her to look at the moon with her hair down, oh, what will that compliment grow bigger? 20 pounds. I'm ashamed, you know." "When will you see her later, Madame Gordeloup?" I see her every day, always. I will be there today and tomorrow and the next day." "You might say a word then at once, this afternoon?" "What, for 20 pounds? 7,000 pounds per annum, and you give me 20 pounds? Fie, Captain Clavering, it is only just for me to speak to you, this. That is all. Come, when will you bring me 50? "By George, 50? "Yes, 50 for another beginning. What, 7,000 pounds per annum, and make difficulty for 50 pounds? You have a handy way with your glove. Will you come with 50 pounds tomorrow?" Archie, with drops of perspiration standing on his brow, and now desirous of getting out again into the street, promised that he would come again on the following day with the required sum. So the 20 pounds is just to talk to Sophie. "Just for another beginning. And now, good morning, Captain Clavering. I will do my possible with Julie. Julie is very fond of me, and I think you have been right in coming here, but 20 pounds was too little even for a beginning." Mercenary wretch, hungry, greedy, ill-conditioned woman, altogether of the harpy breed. As Archie Clavering looked into her grey eyes and saw there her greed and her hunger, his flesh crept upon his bones. Should he not succeed with Julia, how much would this excellent lady cost him? As soon as he was gone, the excellent lady made an intolerable grimace, shaking herself and shrugging her shoulders, and walking up and down the room with her dirty wrapper held close round her. "Bah!" she said. "Bah!" And as she thought of the heavy stupidity of her late visitor, she shrugged herself and shook herself again violently, and clutched up her robe still more closely. Bah! It was intolerable to her that a man should be such a fool, even though she was to make money by him. And then, that such a man should conceive it to be possible that he should become the husband of a woman with 7,000 pounds a year. Bah! Archie, as he walked away from Mount Street, found it difficult to create a triumphant feeling within his own bosom. He had been awkward, slow, and embarrassed, and the spy had been too much for him. He was quite aware of that, and he was aware also that even the sagacious Doodles had been wrong. There had, at any rate, been no necessity for making a difficulty about the money. The Russian spy had known her business too well to raise troublesome scruples on that point. That she was very good at her trade he was prepared to acknowledge, but a fear came upon him that he would find the article too costly for his own purposes. He remembered the determined tone in which she had demanded the £50 merely as a beginning. Then he could not but reflect how much had been said at the interview about money for her, and about how very little had been said as to the assistance to be given, as to return made for the money. No plan had been laid down, no times fixed, no facilities for making love suggested to him. He had simply paid over his £20 and been desired to bring another 50. The other 50 he was to take to Mount Street on the morrow. What if she were to require £50 every day, and declare that she could not stir in the matter for less? Doodles, no doubt, had told him that these first-class Russian spies did well the work for which they were paid, and no doubt, if paid according to her own tariff, Madame Gordeloup would work well for him. But such a tariff as that was altogether beyond his means. It would be imperatively necessary that he should come to some distinct settlement with her as to price. The £20, of course, were gone. But would it not be better that he should come to some final understanding with her before he gave her another 50? But then, as he thought of this, he was aware that she was too clever to allow him to do as he desired. If he went into that room with £50 in his pockets, or in his glove, or indeed anywhere about his person, she would have it from him, and let his own reputation to make the previous bargain be what it might. His respect for the woman rose almost to veneration, but with veneration was mixed a strong feeling of fear. But, in spite of all this, he did venture to triumph a little when he met Doodles at the club. He had employed the Russian spy, and had paid her £20, and was enrolled in the corps of the diplomatic and mysterious personages who do their work by mysterious agencies. He did not tell Doodles anything about the glove or the way in which the money was taken from him, but he did say that he was to see the spy again tomorrow, and that he intended to take with him another present of £50. "By George, Clavey, you are going it," said Doodles, in a voice that was delightfully envious to the ears of Captain Archie. When he had heard that envious tone, he felt that he was entitled to be triumphant. You have to remember here Archie Clavering's precarious life up until this point. £20 would be enough for him to live on for a week. £50 is a source he never has in his hand. Now, granted, he can get loans on the basis of the fact that he's now heir to the property. Although Sir Hugh is hale and healthy, so Archie's not going to come into the property for quite some time. But still, there'll be people there that can raise on speculation. We've seen that already in Mr. Scarborough's family. Or Archie could go to Hugh and ask for money for the purpose that Hugh has put upon Archie. After all, it's Hugh's idea. We shall see how it all turns out as things go forward. The one person who doesn't know anything about this is Julia. But we'll see how that turns out. So I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.